Welcome to the team. We think you'll find this process very rewarding and inspiring, helping local students achieve their education goals and dreams. This program is truly a community effort. We have over 100 evaluators from throughout SLO County, and we cannot thank you enough for donating your time and your talents. I'd like to make some introductions. First, from the Community Foundation staff, I'd like to introduce Emily Jagger. She is our scholarship manager. Emily, to do a little wave. I'm sure you've
Hello,
been getting
everyone.
emails from Emily. This is her second season as scholarship manager. She's doing a fantastic job. We're so thrilled that she's with us. And I'd also like to introduce the other Emily, Emily Narveson. She is the Grants and Scholarships Coordinator. So yeah, a little confused. We have Emily J and Emily N, so you can't go wrong if you ask for Emily in scholarships. Um, I'd also like to introduce our scholarship committee. You will be hard pressed to find a more dedicated group of individuals. So when I say your name, if you want to give a little wave, and then maybe we'll be able to see you in the sea of boxes here. But anyway, our committee members are Lauren Alvarado. I'm not sure if she's here. Celia Bewley, I know Celia's here, and Kay Miller. Hi, Kay. Rick Moss. Is Rick on? I'm not sure if he's on. Paul, I saw Paul come on, Paul Padroni.
Yeah.
Hi there. Bern Singson. And our board of directors liaison is Pat Hosgood Martin. I don't think she'll be on with us today. But anyway, that's our very hardworking scholarship committee. Okay, so here's our plan for today. We are going to familiarize you with the Community Foundation and our scholarship program. We're going to do an overview of our scoring guidelines, which is always a great refresher as we're starting a new season. And then this will be followed by an opportunity to review the sample redacted application and score that together. And this is a super helpful exercise for all of us. And then, of course, we will answer any questions that you have. So if you would please hold your questions until the final session. And then please make sure you're on mute for the first part of our meeting. Then, of course, we can unmute for the discussions at the end. Okay, sound good? Okay, but before we jump in, speaking of inspiring, we have a very special guest with us today. I'm very excited. I'd like to introduce you to Kelso Harper. They are the recipient of the 2014 Kelly A. McAdams Scholarship, one of our most competitive scholarships, for the brightest of the bright. Full disclosure, I've known Kelso since they were at San Luis Obispo High School. They ran cross country and track, competing against my daughter, who was at Nipomo High School. As it turns out, they both went to Johns Hopkins University, and they're still good friends today. Kelso is a science journalist and multimedia producer. I highly recommend visiting their website, kelsoharper.com, where you can nerd out to an amazing array of science podcasts, articles, and videos such as Yes, Flights Are Getting Bumpier, and Why You Might Be a Mosquito Magnet. But also topics such as the urgency of glacial lake outburst floods and a fascinating look inside MIT Space Nanotechnology Lab. So super cool stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelso so they can tell us a little bit about their education and career journey and what the Community Foundation Scholarship meant to them and what cool projects they're working on now. Kelso, thank you so much for being here. It's awesome to see you.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's so great to meet you all. I am zooming in from Brooklyn, New York, where I live now. I graduated from San Luis Obispo High School in 2014, and I went to, as Stacy mentioned, Johns Hopkins University, where I studied chemistry. While there, for the first time, I learned that science journalism was a career when I kind of accidentally took a science journalism class. And I realized that that was the path that I wanted to pursue, to tell stories about science, to be kind of the bridge between scientists and the general public. So all the wonderful things scientists are doing aren't just, so everyone can learn about them together. Let's see, after I graduated from Johns Hopkins. You know, one of the beautiful things about the Kelly McAdams Scholarship, it was one of the biggest scholarships I received, local scholarships that I received. With all of those local scholarships, plus the financial aid from my institution, school was essentially free for me, which was like that's an unheard of privilege. And being able to graduate without debt is something that's almost unheard of now. And it enabled me to go right into freelancing right after college. Because freelancing is tough. I was piecemealing different, writing different articles for different publications, and slinging some pizzas on the side when I had to at a local pizza place. But it enabled me to not have to have the burden of debt right after college. Um, and so after a few years of freelancing, a few different internships, I ended up getting hired on at Scientific American, which is where I work now. It's a science magazine. I am on the multimedia team. I'm their senior multimedia editor, and I work on short documentaries about stories about scientists and their work, as well as our podcast, Science Quickly, publishes 3 times a week and little bite-sized samples of things that are going on in the world of science and interviews with experts in the field, and as well as our TikToks and Reels, our short form videos, our most bite-sized science, the videos that are go out all on social media. So I'm working on all sorts of video and audio about science now, and I really love it. I'm really grateful to be working in a job that I truly care about at an institution that I find really important. And yeah, I feel really lucky to have had this to be in this career. Yeah.
That's awesome. Tell us a little, I know you did some sort of education at MIT too. Can you tell us a little bit
I
about that?
did. Yes, I did end up going back for my master's at MIT. Also, great scholarships there. Big fan of MIT's scholarship funding as well. So I ended up doing a master's there. I did a thesis on weight stigma or weight bias in medicine, how higher weight people get experience different care in medicine, and I ended up turning that into 2 short documentaries that I published with Scientific American and a co-publisher called Retro Report. And I actually now am co-teaching the documentary class at in that was in my program. So I have a class next Tuesday that I have to prepare for. But yeah, so I'm excited to be teaching for the first time as well.
That's fantastic. I'm sure you'll be a real gift to the students. So then lastly, can you tell us like any super cool thing that you're working on now, or what is the latest thing that
Let's
you're
see.
digging
What's the
into?
well, Well, this is not actually an answered question. This is a question I'm looking to answer right now. So we are in our first of what we call false spring in New York, where it just gets a little bit warmer after winter before it gets cold again, and then actually getting warm, where you're like, oh, spring is coming, and then it's not quite yet. But I've always wondered why when I go outside in the spring on a 50-degree day, I'm like take me out in shorts and a tank top and I'm feeling great. But on a 50-degree day in the fall or in San Luis Obispo, my mom's putting on a parka and I'm, bundling up. And so I'm actually exploring right now physiologically what changes are happening to our body in the winter that actually makes us feel a true difference in the temperature, the same temperature in the fall versus the winter. So I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. It seems like there's a few different things going on. But one of the things I love about my job is I can have a question like that when I'm walking outside in my tank top and be like, wait, what's going on there? What's the science behind that? So stay tuned.
We will. We will. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Kelso, for
Yeah.
taking. Now let's give her a nice round of applause. Thank you for taking the time to visit with us, and yeah, continued good luck and best wishes for everything. And we'll just keep an eye on all of your. I just think you do such a great job of being clever and engaging and connecting, like you said, making that bridge between science and the rest of us. So thanks for your work. Perfect.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And thank you all so much for the work that you're doing. It really is so meaningful. I wouldn't have had the same experience without the scholarships that I received. It changed my life, and I'm really, truly grateful.
All right. Thanks, Kelso. We'll let you go. Get to your
Okay.
meeting. Take care. I
Thank
hope
you.
spring comes
Bye.
soon.
Yes, very soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, yeah, that was just a thrill to hear from Kelso. Just a little glimpse at what our scholarships do. You know, and she's what 11 years out from high school and following this awesome path. So, okay, so let's keep going. I'm going to turn it over to Emily. She's going to share a PowerPoint presentation, and we'll get going on our agenda.
Okay, let's do this. Can everyone see the PowerPoint here that says welcome? Okay, fantastic. All right, Stacy, let's see. Oh, you're on mute. Do you
Yeah, I
want to
think
kick it off here?
yeah, I welcomed, I think I did that part. I welcomed everybody. So if you want to jump into
Sure.
your part, and yeah, and then I'll pick up when we do the scoring guideline review.
Okay, sure. And Stacy, thank you so much for bringing Kelso on. I just wanted to say that was really special. She was such a treat to have. So just really awesome to hear from a scholarship alumni like her. Okay, so welcome. This is our scholarship program, Community Evaluator Orientation for 2025. Again, we are so happy that you are here. We're so grateful and excited to kick things off. You will be hearing more from us in the next few days. More on that soon, but let's get started. And you heard from Kelso, so we'll skip that slide. Okay, so the purpose of this meeting is to offer you an overview and an update on the Community Foundation Scholarship Program and also give you tools to assist you while you evaluate your scholarship applications, which we are about to assign you. And then offer you a chance to ask your questions and follow along as we evaluate a test application later on after our first part of our program. And so just as a recap for anyone who doesn't know, the role of the Community Foundation is very large in the community. We're a grant making and education foundation supporting charitable work across San Luis Obispo County, connecting donors with those who need support. And in this case, our local students, funding collaboratives and innovative programs. We have donor advised funds and general grants program partnerships. And most importantly for today, a growing scholarship program. And you are all part of this, so thank you. So here's a quick scholarship program overview for everyone. So what we do in a nutshell in the scholarship program is that we administer the entire scholarship process, which again is growing each year, from advertising the opportunities to students, visiting local high schools. We do a lot of that, to creating and distributing the applications digitally. Everything is digital, which you'll see if you're not aware, to managing the evaluation process and disbursement of funds for students. The foundation appoints a large volunteer committee to review student applications and select recipients based on fair and objective review process. So that is, of course, where you come in. We have over 100 volunteers who have signed up to read applications or sit on unique selection committees and even participate in interviews. Every once in a while, we do have those as well. So thank you again for being here. So here are the basics of the Community Foundation scholarships. In 2024, this is so exciting, we awarded 115 recipients from across the county, from all backgrounds, a total of $700,000, which is pooling all of our funds together, all of our scholarships that were offered. There are also many new scholarship opportunities, including funds that support students pursuing construction trades, vocational programs, aviation and aerospace engineering, as well as a special new scholarship for reentry students, and for those are students that are returning from their adult lives into education. So this is something we're really excited about. It's life-changing to get a scholarship when you've been raising your children and you are all of a sudden accepted into a program where you will be retrained for a successful career. But you're thinking, how am I going to pay for this? And so now we have a scholarship for that, which is great. So again, back to the program, more than half of the awarded students were first generation last year. 150 volunteers participated, and scholarship award amounts were up to $23,000. And those larger amounts are usually multi-year scholarships. They're really transformational, and we award them over 4 years. So students know that they have that support coming. So we call that those scholarships multi-year. And awards can be used for tuition, supplies, and living expenses through students' colleges or universities, and now even vocational and trades programs as well. So I wanted to tell you a quick story about a student named Sophia. And I want to tell you the story because if you are new to evaluating community foundation scholarships, you will be surprised at how awarding this work is. Our hearts have been so struck by powerful stories and essays told through the students' own voices. And you will get to read these. And sometimes they take you back, and they come from students like this. So here's a quick story and a good example of a student whose life completely changed after receiving a community foundation scholarship. So this is Sophia, not her real name, but she is a real Paso Robles High School recent graduate. She grew up really quickly during the pandemic. She was taking care of her family, her siblings. She was working before and after school. Her father was incarcerated, and her mother was working a couple of jobs as well to stay afloat. So Sophia took on adult responsibilities and even worked in her parents' restaurant to produce catering orders at as early as 4 a.m. before school. And she would come home and then get her siblings ready to go. She kept her grades up. She cooked, she cleaned. All the while, she had her own dreams to go to college, but it was difficult to imagine how that would happen. She didn't have tuition money or a car, and she wanted to be the first in her family to go to college. So after applying for for a lot of our scholarships, Sophia was awarded a $10,000 Community Foundation scholarship to study diversity in her community. And she's now enjoying her second year at Chico State. And this is life-changing. And for Sophia to be able to leave home to go to a 4-year college and not worry about finances is truly a gift. So these are the students you may be reading about when you read their essays and you read about their extraordinary circumstances. Yeah, they will pull at your heart because a lot of them are juggling many, many things. And so that's why we do this work, to help them succeed. Okay, so let's launch right into how we get there. And we use a program called Smarter Select. And so if you see that logo and you see Smarter Select, you know that it's coming from the Community Foundation Scholarship Program. This is our online platform that we use for hosting and evaluating our scholarships. All the data for scholarships is housed in Smarter Select. And our staff creates accounts for each evaluator reading scholarships, so the entire process will take place online. And so if you've read before, you should already have a Smarter Select login, and that shouldn't have changed. Okay, so how to get started as an evaluator. So first, if you've never been on Smarter Select, you will need to activate your account, and we will send you a link to do that. You'll receive an email, which may come from myself or my colleague, Emily Narvison, with information on how to do that. It should also have the Community Foundation San Luis Obispo County name in the preview line of the email if you need a keyword to search in your inbox. So please check this email Starting, I would say Monday, we are sending things out over the next couple days. Um, and and so I'm sorry, I just saw somebody who looked like they had a question, but we'll keep going because I don't hear anything. Um, so please check this in the next couple days to make sure that you can access your account or activate your account for the first time. It takes you to a window to verify your account. If you need to change your password, you can do that to keep everything secure. Once your account is activated, you will have a dashboard there that looks something like this, and it will keep track of your evaluations that are your applications that have been assigned to you. And you can track them there. You can track your progress. You can track which ones you have already scored. You can save your work there. So if you've started them, they're in progress or submitted, you'll see them there. And you can just keep going through. We hope to assign you 10 applications or less. We have a lot of applications to read this year, though. So we're really happy. If anybody can read more, we're really happy you're here. But if you can read more, please let us know because we might take you up on that. Okay. Scholarship review process. This is where Stacy comes in. Are you ready, Stacy?
I think you have I think you wanted to do this slide yet, the role of the
Okay,
community
yeah,
partner, and then
sure.
I'll do the review.
Yes, okay. Um, so this slide is about the role of the community evaluator. You guys. So your role is to evaluate the applications using the rubric that are objective and non-discriminatory. And we'll talk about that. Stacy is an expert in our rubric and how to score applications. You may be asked to participate in interviews if you're available. If you've maybe participated in the past, you may get some outreach from us about doing that again this year to help with some of those on-site interviews with students. There's only a few, but we do need help. And also we ask you to provide your feedback on the scholarship program and your experience and how we can improve the experience for you next year, the evaluator experience. And so we'll send you a survey at the end of the season that we ask you to fill out, and it'll be very simple, but please be honest and provide any information or any feedback that you have for us. We appreciate that. And we also ask you to recruit additional community evaluators. If you know anyone who would like to help do this important work and maybe they have a little bit of time on their hands, please send them our way. We are about to assign applications in the next couple of days, so it's almost too late to do it for this year. But for next year, it's not too late. We can add them to the list for next year. Okay, so I want to go over this really quickly. This is the common application review process cycle. This is the quick and easy cycle. Just so everybody understands, when applications are submitted through the Community Foundation portal, our portal, our process called Smarter Select, our program, our staff screens for eligibility. We look Emily Narvison and I have been screening, mostly Emily Narvison. So bravo to you, Emily. She has read already many thousands of scholarship applications, and she's looking for just the basics. Are the applications complete? Can we open the documents, the uploaded documents, things like that? We're not looking at this point for quality. We're not looking for what the essay says, because that's your part. You're going to read the essays and you're going to give us your feedback. But we're looking to make sure that those applications are as complete as they can be before we send them to you. And that's where you come in. Community evaluators then read and score the applications and submit scores through Smarter Select. And everything then comes back to us in the office. We put everything together so that we can award candidates in early May, as soon as we can. Candidates can receive they receive the largest scholarship they applied for. They can only receive one program scholarship with the Wyrick Leadership Award as the only exception. So if they were top candidates for 5 different scholarships, they will receive the largest one that they were top candidate for. So if we hope to give them the biggest one ever, the biggest scholarship out of the bunch of 5. That's how this works. And we use all of your scores to do that. Okay, scoring guidelines. So now we'll send it off to Stacy.
Thank you very much. So yeah, we thought we would just do a brief review of our scoring guidelines for you. And we'll cover some more of that in detail when we do when we review the redacted application together after our main session here. So there are 5 components to our application: academic, activities, essay, letter of recommendation, and extraordinary circumstances. So the first category, the GPA, is the most cut and dried one. There's no subjectivity in this one. What we're basically doing is reviewing the student's transcript. What we're looking for is their grades 9 through 12 cumulative GPA unweighted. So not weighted, unweighted GPA. Some schools will also you'll see on the transcript, it might say grades 10 through 12 or non-academic or only academic GPA. So what we're looking for is the cumulative total 9 through 12 GPA. To keep things simple, we are not doing any rounding. So for example, if the student has a 3.78, that would be a 3.7 GPA. This handy chart will appear on the Smart Select platform as you're reviewing it. So it's easy peasy. We look at 3.7 equals 17 points. So you can just put the 17 points in the box and that completes that section. Next slide. So the next section is the activity section, and this is the highest scoring segment of the application. We've broken it down into 4 categories to try to really capture the full breadth of a student, and also to account for, give the same weight to students who maybe work 30 hours a week. They're not going to have the time to be involved in a sports team or the band. Also to accommodate students who have real commitments at home. So we want to see a complete picture of what a student might be doing outside of school hours. So those 4 categories, we'll get to see the samples in a minute: extracurricular activities, employment, volunteer and community service, and family commitments. We really are looking for students, not the one who's doing a one-off. I did a beach cleanup on a Saturday afternoon, and I helped with a fun run one time. We're really looking for students who are, finding their passion and putting it toward an activity for 2, 3 years or more. Some things you might want to consider when you're looking at their activities: are they a doer versus a joiner? Are they a leader? Do they have leadership roles? If they're telling you, I'm going to major in, animal science, do their activities reflect that passion? Are they working at the Humane Society, walking dogs or whatever? What kind of impact have they made? And do they work and help their family? What kind of time is that taking the student? Also, a note that an applicant must use the form that we provided or they are disqualified. So this is being screened by the 2 Emilys, but there are hundreds of applications. So if it happens to have gone through, if you would please notify Emily Jagger of that, that would be great. For example, if a student uploads a resume rather than the form, that is not acceptable, and unfortunately, they will have to be disqualified. So next slide. So here we're going to run through those 4 areas that I was just talking about. This is the sample for the extracurricular activities. So stuff like FFA, drama, clubs, sports teams, anything of that nature. So the next one, please. The next one is employment. Funny story, when we first started doing this sample thing that we sent to students, somehow it was set up that the sample that we put in there, the imaginary Jenny's hot dog stand, did not come up. We had dozens of students working at Jenny's hot dog stand. Anyway, this is where students will record any employment they've had over their high school years. Okay, and then the next one. Next one is community service. So any volunteer or unpaid internships will be listed here. And again, looking for more consistent stuff and not just some one-off little events. I mean, those are great too, but great to see more continuity in their engagement. And then the last one is family commitment. So I'm going to tell you what we're not looking for on this. What we are not looking for on this are routine chores that teenagers do at home. Um, doing the dishes, vacuuming, walking the dog, this kind of stuff. We are not looking. So we are getting kids putting this on here. The best one was, we throw big parties at our house a lot, and I have to put up the lights and clean up afterwards. So that's not what we are looking for in all seriousness is students who have legitimate obligations to their family. Like the example here, they're watching their siblings while their parents are at work, or they're helping their grandparents in translation at an appointment, or they work in the family business. It's those kinds of things that we want to see, because again, that shows what the students, how they're spending their time outside of school hours. Okay. Then on to the personal essay. This is my favorite segment of the application. I love hearing the personal stories from the kids. So there is a rubric provided for that. It pops up on every application on the platform. So it's right there in front of you for you to reference, and we'll look at it a little bit later when we're reviewing that app. So the essay should be scored based on how well it responds to the specified prompt. There are 7 prompts that we offer, and they kind of align with the UC prompts and the Common App prompts. So we're looking to see how well it responds to that prompt, and also how does it give insight and a unique perspective of that student? What did we learn about this student? Keep in mind too that some English language learners or ESL students might have some writing or grammatical errors. So in that cases, we kind of want to maybe score the grammar secondarily and focus on a compelling narrative, kind of walk a balance there for English language learners. Okay, the next one. So there is a change regarding letters of recommendation this year. We had too many students who could not move their application forward, deserving fantastic students, because their teacher or whoever their recommender was did not submit their letter of recommendation. And this was always so tragic for us. So the solution we came up with is we are still requesting a letter of recommendation, but we are not assigning any points to it. So if a student has a letter of recommendation that comes in, we still like to see those, because you returning evaluators will agree, I think, that sometimes we learn something about the student through that we didn't know through their essay or their activities or whatever. It can be helpful. So no points for it. It can just be used as a tool to, like, maybe the recommender says, well, this student did this amazing project at school, and the student didn't mention it on their activities form. So you can go in and and add a few points to the activities form based on what you read in the letter of recommendation. Similarly, if the student faced a really tough challenge that's mentioned by the recommender, you could add a point to the extraordinary circumstances section, which is the last one that we'll go to next. So yeah, so when we get to the end of that, let me know if you have any questions on that letter of recommendation. So, and if it's missing, it's okay. And 0 points. Lastly, we have an opportunity to award 5 additional points to students who have had extraordinary circumstances or challenges come up in their life. Maybe they've experienced homelessness. Maybe they've been had domestic violence in their lives. Maybe they have to work to help pay the rent, that kind of thing. So it's just an opportunity to just boost a little bit students who have had just really challenging and extraordinary things in their lives. So yeah, so the total points that can be awarded will be 90 points because we subtracted the 10 from the letter of recommendation. So 90 points available to score. Please remember, as Emily said, you can come in and out of your applications. What I usually do is go in as I'm scoring. Um, I like to score all the students before I go in and finalize all my scores and hit submit. So yeah, so I'll throw it back to Emily to wrap things up, and then we'll move into our next segment for those who can stay to look at an application together.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. You are truly the expert in evaluating, so thank you.
Well,
And
there's not always a right answer, but thank you.
and our committee members are as well, and they're great resources if you ever need to reach out to any of them. They're all open to helping, as well as I am too. Um, okay, a quick 2025 timeline just to kind of keep things in perspective. Today, we're having our scholarship kickoff meeting for evaluators. In the next couple days, you will be assigned applications to read through Smarter Select. We'll get started with that tomorrow, but we have so many to assign. I just ask that you give us a couple of days. So we will let you know when your applications are assigned, probably, hopefully by next Monday or Tuesday at the latest. That's what we're shooting for. We are hoping that all scores will be submitted by March 21st. So that is your goal. You have about 3 weeks. So I hope that's enough time. We're hoping that you will only receive a maximum of 10 applications. But like I said, if you're really gung-ho and you've got tons of time, let us know and we will assign you more because there are a lot to read. I think I've said that a few times already. And I also wanted to say again that we're hoping to announce awards at the very beginning of May. So this is a whole spring process that you're part of right now. The roster of students gets created and actually gets approved by the scholarship committee and then goes on to our board to get approved before we can actually award the students. And so this moves along really quickly. There are a lot of things that happen behind the scenes to make sure that we can award about $700,000 this year. So you guys are key to this happening, and this is your portion right now. And we can't do it without you. So, okay, some key takeaways. We hope that you have fun doing this. It really is so special. So enjoy reading your assigned applications and know that you are helping support our local students, achieve their dreams and move toward, their own educational journeys and their next chapters. Remember, some of these students are not graduating straight from high school. Some of them have already been in college. They might be undergraduates or they might be returning to education. The bulk of them, though, are high school students graduating out this year and going off to college. So remember to complete and score all your applications before submitting. And the deadline again is March 21st. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. I think you've received a few emails from me already. You can always reply to one of those or email me at emily@cfsloco.org. Or call the office if you're really in a pinch and you need something. I will try to help you, or Emily Narvison will. Okay, so here is where we are going to open it up for questions and answers for Q&A, but we will also load up a sample application as an opportunity to walk through this with our committee members. And also, I just want to say, these are some of the actual recipients from last year's program.
Wow.
These are about half of them. Actually, I think this slide sort of cut off the tail end of the group on either side. There were about 50 that attended our scholarship celebration last year, and there were over 100 awarded. So that just gives you perspective. You can see their faces there. lots of girls, but also some boys, and just a fantastic group that were awarded. They were so excited. So with that, I think I'll hand it back to Stacy, and we'll go forward. Oh, you're on mute, Stacy.
Sorry about that. We have some questions coming up on the chat. I don't know if it would be helpful to address some of those before some come
Sure.
up.
What do we
Um,
have here that we can address? Let's see.
um, so
Oh, this
Lori
is
also,
a
oh,
great
okay.
question. So sorry. Sorry,
No, go
Stacy.
ahead.
Does each application get more than one reviewer? Is my review supplemented by another reader? Yes, great question, Mark. Yes. Every application will be reviewed by at least 3 people. So don't worry. All the pressure is not on you.
I'm
Okay.
not worried.
Okay.
I do have one question.
Yes.
On the GPA, since I read other essays elsewhere, do we trust the school or do we do the math ourselves? And do we include things like PE versus classes?
That's a great question. We are actually screening for GPA now before we send you the applications, but
Okay,
please do check it as well, just in case we missed something. But we are using the total GPA unweighted.
that would include PE and that sort of thing.
It
Yes.
includes everything. Yeah,
Okay,
the total.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. Good question.
Somebody also asked, they're not seeing the, on the sample redacted application that we're going to look at in just a minute. The list of prompt questions was not on there. And so how do we know if it, that's just when we had to download the application from the portal, it didn't include that. But when you go in and evaluate, it will have all 7 prompts written out there. So you'll have those right in front of you, right next to the essay to reference. So no worries on that. Also, someone asked, has the word count already been conducted during the pre-screen for the essay? No, it has not. Generally what I do if I suspect that it's under or over, I will just do a quick highlight, copy and paste it into Word and then which then at the very bottom pops up what the word count is. So
Can
that
I
should,
say something about
yes,
that?
of course.
I checked one the other day just because I happened to see it as we were doing our initial screening. And I thought, oh, it looks like it's over the word count. And Smarter Select will give you the guidelines for the word count, the minimum and maximum word count. I thought it was over. So I thought, oh, I'm going to check this since I see it and I think it's over. And I put it in Word and I checked it and it was 1 word within the word count.
Oh,
And
wow.
I said, okay, wow, that student was, really following directions. So he got every word he could in there. But your eyes might start to tell you, what it looks like to be over the word count once you get the feeling for it.
And I might suggest that when you copy and paste it into a Word doc, you might need to go to Tools and up at the top in the bar so that if you select Tool, if it doesn't show up, select Tools and then you can scroll down to word count and it will, if you click on that, it'll give you the word count.
Good
Thank you.
suggestion.
Thanks, Kay.
Okay, there's another question about whether you can be assigned less than 10 applications if you're super busy. Yes, please just let us know that, and we'll make that arrangement happen for you. That's fine.
There's also a question, hi Barbara, about the YRIC. So those who are reading the YRIC scholarship, you are correct. That does not include an academic score. So that will be just activities, essay, letter of rec, and extraordinary circus. In addition to the leader, remember there's a leadership essay for that too. So
Yeah, since there is not a score for the letter of recommendation, although for leadership we hope there is, there are 2 essays. So it's activities and 2 essays, the general essay, and then there is a specific leadership essay that they have to write.
Yeah, once our teams are fine, your team leader will reach out with the little evaluation sheet that's specifically designed for the WIREC, so you can fill that out. And somebody wants to know when the award ceremony is. Yes, everyone is welcome. That is going to be May 20th at the County Board of Supervisors Chambers in San Luis Obispo, and we would love anyone who would like to come. It's a really special ceremony, so please, everyone is invited for that.
For the WIREC.
For the
Yeah.
WIREC. Mhm.
And just to clarify, thank you, Kay. That is for the WIREC Leadership Awards, and normally we award one student from each high school. And so if you are in a certain community and you want to support that student, please come out and do so.
So there are a couple of questions here about linking specific scholarships to the application, and are you reading things, or like, for example, looking at a healthcare interest? So the applications that are going out right now for all of you folks are what we call common applications. So we're doing just a first run screen through it. A lot of the scholarships, for example, we do have two nursing scholarships. Some of those have a specific committee that only focuses on that special interest scholarship. So the ones that we are all doing right now are just to screen the student and get a score for them, and then to see, where they fall on the various scholarships that they applied to. Do you have anything to add to that, Emily?
No, that was perfect. Thank you.
Okay. I think I got everything there. So shall we jump into and let's put up that redacted
Stacy,
application.
there is one more question.
Oh,
Cheryl
sorry.
was
Thank you.
asking, will the applications that we get all be for the same scholarship, or will we be reading for a variety of scholarships?
You want to answer that, Kay?
No, you can.
No, you're reading for a variety of scholarships. I mean, some kids maybe applied for, what do you think, Emily, 5, 8 scholarships, anything that
Oh
they're
my
really-
goodness. We have seen some that I saw one yesterday that applied for up like very close to 20. So yeah, some of these kids are very driven right now to get a scholarship, and you have to give them all the brownie points for that. Sometimes we do have to screen them out though if they don't read the criteria. They're just applying for everything on the list. But sometimes they really do fit all the criteria. So we see them many times across all the scholarships.
Right, but as Emily said too, if a student, let's say they end up in the #1 position for 2 or 3 scholarships, they will be awarded the scholarship that's the highest dollar amount. And then they can only have the one unless they get the WIREC leadership too. That's the only one you can double dip on, so to speak.
Right.
Okay.
So can you see this sample application? Everybody see this on the
Yeah, can you do full screen on that one?
Okay, yeah, let's see if I can.
There, that's better.
Is that better?
Yeah, full screen.
Got small again.
Got small again.
That went small. Oh gosh. Okay, how's that?
No,
Okay, let's see what we can do.
There.
Is that good?
No.
it goes big and then it goes small again. It's not
Really?
staying.
Is that happening for everybody?
Yes. Maybe you can zoom. Can you zoom?
Oh, maybe. Let's try that. But just thanks for your patience, everyone. We don't do this every day, and we want to make sure that you can see the application.
Can you use the slider in the bottom right corner?
Oh,
We
such
can
a smart.
do that ourselves if we
Hey,
go to.
Oh,
We can
how's
do
that?
it.
Is that
There you
good
go.
for everybody?
No,
Yeah.
everybody, we can control it ourselves. Once
That's
you
much
go to
better.
full
Is
screen.
that good though? Okay.
Yeah, great.
Okay. And that's a good base point. And then, like someone said, you can control it on your end if you need it to be even bigger, I think. Okay. So I'm going to hand this back to Stacy and the committee because this is really
Yeah, we're going to enlist
expertise.
the help of the committee in this discussion. So let's go ahead and scroll down on this application until we get to I'll just do the academic part really quickly. We can see that this student was not in an AVID program. Sometimes that's good to know. well, or for criteria if it is a first gen scholarship. Okay, so let's keep going down. Um, this is just sort of for our information where the student has applied and if they've been accepted anywhere. So this is a very ambitious list of of colleges. Columbia, it looks like they've already been accepted at American, applied to UC San Diego and UC Berkeley. Okay, keep going down, please. Wants to
Can I,
be,
sorry, Stacy, I just want to tell the committee, this is what it will look like in Smarter Select. But where there are links to click on, you will be able to click on them in Smarter Select and open documents and all the things. And Stacy has so kindly redacted this application to keep any personal information out of it. And Smarter Select will do the same.
so this is very this downloaded version is very cumbersome. You'll find it much easier to work on the platform itself. So don't get too worried about how cumbersome this looks.
Right.
Okay, so this
I have
is
a
the
quick
students.
question
Oh,
about,
we have a question.
When you went on the very first page, that is where it listed the unique apps and it says the two specific scholarships. I'm still not clear on if we just look at it generally and we don't pay any attention to that. I'm just not for sure on that.
As
Are
an
we looking
evaluator,
to make sure they meet it or we assume that's pre-screened?
correct. Yeah, as an evaluator don't need to worry about that. We are scoring it and then the staff will see who floats to the top. And maybe there's 5 top students and they will say, okay, here's the 5 top who applied for the Kiwanis Club or for the Burns-Singson Scholarship.
Mhm.
Yeah, so you don't have to also be thinking about its appropriateness for a particular scholarship. Is that your question, Anne?
Yes, thank you so
Okay.
much. I
Yeah,
appreciate
no,
that.
that's an excellent question.
Great question. Okay. I'm going to make this a little smaller so we can see the whole. If everybody can see this.
Yeah, so they have to have an unofficial transcript. It will look like this. Somebody was asking about, will it be PE and everything? It is their whole transcript from their 4 years of high school, from the
Yeah,
school.
so down at the bottom of this one, this particular school doesn't have too many different categories, which is nice. So maybe you can enlarge, I think it says total GPA, weighted is 4.39, unweighted is 3.87, which means with no rounding, we're giving them a
3.8.
3.8. Okay, and then the next page is the rubric that appears. So 3.8. So this student will be getting a score of 18 for academics. So I don't know if you have all I know this is paper, but in this instance, it's kind of a good thing to. It's the very last page on there. It's this student evaluation sheet. I
Mhm.
find these really handy to do. Pencil in my scores here. And then as I do one for each student, and then it helps me more visually see, who is maybe a little stronger than others. So I recommend using that. As you do this more, you'll come up with your own system. So anyway, 18 out of 20 points for academics. So now I want to invite Celia Bewley. She's one of our longtime committee members. I want to invite her to talk about how she scored the activities for this student, and some tips and what she looks for. Anyway, Celia, if you would please talk to us about this section.
Okay, I will, and I'll invite the core committee members to chime in whenever you want. But basically, the way I told Stacy, sure, I'll talk about it, but I'll also reassure the evaluators that for me, this is the one that kind of takes the most time, and I kind of go back and consider the rubric, consider the hours. But anyway, my suggestion is read through the, be familiar with the rubrics, but read through the whole application before you start actually trying to score the activities, because There, like Stacy kind of hinted at in the essay that, in which is true in this case, it elaborates a little bit on some of the activities and sometimes the letter of rec. And so I suggest reading the whole application. Go back to the rubric and the activity specifically, and then I could just kind of walk through this particular list of activities and tell you my thinking on that. So the first page there, he or she is president of the language club, which they actually created. And then it looks kind of like a collaborative rather than, okay, he's president, he has to organize them all, they're focused on a goal. With a lot of logistics, a lot of responsibility, not so much that, but more of a facilitator. And then the self-taught Japanese is totally isolated, but that's something that the person has put a lot of hours into. So I'm thinking about that. We could go to the next slide. And then I'm not going to count very heavily the guitar, partly because part of that is just hunting, going through Boo Boo records. And that's more of just a leisure time activity, I think. Same thing with the content creation, working on video games. That might be my bias, so people can disagree with me. AP Scholars, he does hold vice president. So you're looking for leadership. It was just 2 years. Oh, and the one thing I wanted to notice you don't have to go back there, but on that language club, it's 1 year. No, that's 2 years. Okay, that's 2 years. So it's good to keep in mind, the length of activity. Okay, so this also is a collaborative. Looks like they get together, kind of a study session. And then for 3 years, water polo and swim. And he mentions awards, but no individual distinction. And it seemed like that was true throughout. There was no individual awards, which is what we're kind of looking at. I don't think it matters for us, from our perspective, whether or not they got CIF, the team got CIF championship. Chess club founding member, 4 years, 2 hours a week. Okay, keep going. No employment there, keep going. Now here's the main community service is one year. It is 4 hours a week, so it's a commitment. And it's the only time where it's on the rubric they talk about is there community service throughout the year. These others are one-offs, not insignificant, but they're definitely not consistent throughout the school year. So he has one year of community, one solid year of community service. The Friday Night Live is for a one-time run once a year, so a total of 4 runs. The camp counselor was 4 days. That's significant. And then water polo assistant coach for, I actually, okay. And then I was going to say, I do look things up on the internet. I kind of looked for splash ball because I was just curious. Is it 3 months of the summer? Is it a 6-week thing? But I do suggest taking advantage of, go ahead and look. You can look things up, like on the his individual Japanese thing. There was JPLT, I think, and I looked it up, Japanese language proficiency test. But it can go either way. Sometimes you find out, oh, they said this was all summer, but really it was a 2-week thing. And it can also go the other way. The student doesn't play up. One time I had an application where the student just mentioned a volunteer activity at the Museum of History in San Luis Obispo. And I went on to the website and they had highlighted her Asian, she had done a whole project on the San Luis Obispo Chinatown, and it was a pretty big deal. So sometimes I and performers, sometimes people who are interested in theater. So I do recommend that. The other thing that isn't on this activity, this particular applicant's activity thing, but sometimes students will mention things and you think, well, that's a classroom activity. It could be 1 hour a week, and if the 1 hour a week in leadership, some kind of thing, and you find out, well, they have or a 5 hour a week, they have a leadership class. And so there's no indication that they're doing anything other than showing up to leadership class. So that really doesn't get credit. And same thing, sometimes they go to Avid class and they'll write that in. Now there are Avid outside activities, but you want to distinguish. We're not really going to give them credit for taking classes at high school. We're giving them credit for extracurricular. So before I talk about the rubric, are there questions about what I said so far? Yeah, okay. Okay, and so then the rubric.
Oh, sorry, Celia, we did have a question. I just wanted to highlight. There was a question about, someone is wondering about students with disclosed disabilities who may be doing activities differently, perhaps independently, and whether there is a space on the application for that where we can consider their report in that context.
Can
Well,
I jump in, maybe?
yeah,
Celia?
please.
Yes.
Yes.
And this is something too when you're thinking of leadership, if you're reading the YRIC. There are places where you can add points if they add it on their activity schedule. For example, if someone says they are president of a club as opposed to a member, or if they're a captain of a team as opposed to a member, often I give them a couple more points. If someone says that they are in a special activity or doing that, you can score that the same way on their activities. You would give them points for that, how often they did it, were they a leader, all of those things. They will put that on maybe they would put it on community activities or something. If they mention it, you can consider it.
And
So I
sometimes,
think that's the way to look at it.
yeah, and a disability will come up in an essay sometimes, overcoming challenges, and it'll also come up in the special circumstances, and you can still add up hours and responsibility. And I think we try to just look at the whole picture and look at it holistically in that regard. Did that answer that question? Perhaps.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Okay, and talking about, because you mentioned a student who may have a disability, I noticed when I printed up the application we're going over that one of the first pages that asked if a student has an IEP or a 504, and I was just wondering like the reason behind that question.
Well, we do have at least, yeah, I know of at least one, maybe two, where the donor wants to give a scholarship to people who are in that category.
So, hi, Julie.
Hi.
That's mostly a screening tool to denote eligibility for those scholarships that Celia was talking about. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And one other thing I might say, in all of these categories, once you start doing it, like by your third or fourth application, you'll be getting into a little swing of it. I think all of us score all of our applications with the same frame of reference. So you will learn that you're giving points for this or that. Don't worry that you're going to be different than somebody else, because all of your applications will be scored with your same viewpoint. And so that all enters into it, and that's why there's 3 or so readers for each scholarship, and then it's all averaged and figured out. So don't put too much emphasis on, am I doing it right? As you go, you'll figure it out, and your scores will be even for all of the ones that you
Consistent, right?
look at.
I do have a question about the team sports. there was no individual awards for the individual involved in team sports. So it sounded like he wasn't being given credit
Oh, no,
for
it's still
being
being,
for
yeah,
being involved in a team. You know, typically, if you're involved in a team sport, if it's successful, that's your that's your contribution to the overall to the group. And
good
I
point.
personally think that might be more important
Then,
than individual allocates.
yeah.
The other thing is when we were looking at activities, volunteers, right here, this page,
Yeah.
Mhm.
it looks like this person went from this activity in these years to another activity. So they were constantly busy. And I'm just wondering, should we not give them full credit because they weren't involved for 4 years?
No, no,
Instead,
no. I
they
mean,
went from this activity for 2 years, then another activity, then another activity. So it looked like they were growing their portfolio of volunteerism.
let's see. My comments are mostly we're going to end up trying to distinguish between 40. I mean, we're going to have not 40. We're going to have 10 different applicants, and there's this wide range. And so I'm trying to make distinctions that will help me ultimately score this person. And I don't want to discount anything. And actually, not even the guitar. It's just how much will I weight this? And good point about the sports. And I certainly don't discount the sports. And that's a good point. If they've got a successful team, that person has certainly made a contribution. So thank you. Yeah.
And on the other hand, if they are in the sport 9 through 12, that shows that they were committed to that sport. But if they're in one sport 1 year, 2 years later, they're in another sport, the big brothers and big sisters. That's awesome. They did that. Sounds like it was part of a school project. But if they did it 9 through 12, as Celia says, I would recognize that just doing it 1 year is great. But if they've done it for 4 years, that just shows a little more commitment to it, a little more interest in it, which tells us a little bit more about the student. Like Friday Night Live, they did it from 9th through 12th. Even if it was only one weekend a year, they did it every single year. That helps, as Celia says, when you have 10 applications, who's going to get at the top? That helps and you can go back and change your scores. That's why you don't submit it till the end. The first one, let's say you gave them 35 points for this. And then the second one, you see a much different activities form. You might go back and change the first one. So
I think this is a
Very
good
good points.
segue.
Thank you.
This is a good segue. Let's look at the rubric for this because
Sorry, Stacy, before you do that, we have some other questions and some hands raised, and I wonder if this might be a good time maybe after that to allow some other people to ask questions because I'm afraid that a couple people might have to pop off and they've got some questions that they may.
Right, but I'm just saying that the rubric may help answer some of these questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, who do we? Well, let's
We've
do.
got-
Let's
Jennifer
look at
has
the
a
rubric
question.
really quick, and then we'll take those questions. So if people wouldn't mind, so do you want to scroll down to the rubric?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want me to continue or Stacy
Um,
or not?
I don't care, Emily. Whatever you want. If you want to take questions now, and then we'll. I just think
would that be okay to pause for just a moment?
Yeah, sure.
I'd like to take Jennifer's question and see if it pertains to what we're talking about. Jennifer, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to say when you pointed out that students might have an IEP or a 504, so that's indicating that they have some kind of a disability. That's why you get those two things. And so I feel like you have, just like specialized family circumstances, you have to look at what is going on with that as well. So, I mean, I feel like myself, I wouldn't be able to not hold that, like, okay, maybe they didn't have 6,000 hours that they're putting in, but when you have that, sometimes you're like schoolwork, it takes you longer than the typical student. That's one of the reasons you have perhaps extended time or something like that. So I feel like that's something that you have to hold in your mind when you're looking at their application overall. So I'm just saying, I hope that that doesn't make me improper score, but I know that I'm always going to have that in the back of my head for those students. So, and try to be an advocate for them in some ways.
Great
No,
comment.
that's a great point, Jennifer. Absolutely. It could, yeah, it plays into their, what their activities form may look like or whatever. Yes, definitely.
Can I add something? I don't know. Am I off mute here? I
Of course.
I think having done this a few times, that there's some relativity involved in the scoring, and I think sometimes we can get lost as to whether this is 32 points versus of activities versus 34 points of activities. There's some merit, I think, to reading all 10 before you go back and start assigning points, because if the first essay you read knocks you out and you give them maximum score for the activity, and then the seventh application you read is better than the first one you read, and you have no room to show that this person's activities are better than that person's activities. And so I guess what I'm suggesting, and I think, Kay, I'm probably echoing what you said too, is that, you know, read them all. You're going to have a good idea who your first candidate is by the time you get done before you score a single point. And then it's a matter of making sure that the relative performances of each of your candidates reflects what your evaluation is of their relative performance in each of those areas. But it's really important to get the best candidate as number one and not discover that you've given too many points to a candidate that you think is inferior.
Yeah, that's a good point, Ed. I absolutely agree. In fact, before the meeting, I was saying, I wish I had, all 10 so that I could read them and shuffle them. And one other thing that you helped me remember too, as far as differentiating, when you have read 5, say, and you realize you're giving all 5 candidates, 27 points. One way that I kind of find myself, oh, wait a minute, I gave them all the same point. To try to further distinguish is you can kind of look at the nitty gritty. One way is also, I would not do this just for every single candidate, but sometimes I do actually add up the hours, not of a week and not of a year, but all 4 years. How many hours? And sometimes it just helps me in going into that detail. When I have 3 scores that are all identical, I realize, okay, these 3 candidates, there is a difference. Here's the top. So that's one suggestion also.
And one thing I learned from Ed years ago is that when he read an application, and of course you're not going to submit them till the end, the first one he reads, he puts as number 1. Then the second one, he says, okay, is this one 1? So then he changes the first one to 2. So that by the end, he already has a little bit of a hierarchy just by my first inclination is I like this student as number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you look at the points that you gave them and see if the points match your feeling about that student being the best or the highest score or the lowest score. So again, you will get, as you read them, you will understand more what we're talking about. It's not, don't worry about what somebody else would do. Just,
Hey guys, so we're starting to get a little bit short on time here. So here's a suggestion. So Celia, if you would like to wrap up and let us know where you scored this student in this, and maybe just a couple sentences on why. And then Kay, Kay was going to look at the essay for us. Can you do that in maybe 4 or 5 minutes? Yeah.
I can do it fast.
Let everybody go and get through the end of it. So go ahead, Celia. I mean, but this has all been really great interaction though, and I appreciate it. So
I
if you,
do too, yeah.
go ahead, Celia, if you wanted to sort of tell us where
Well,
you ended up with this student.
yeah, and I vacillated, but in general, I thought, well, it's either a high middle or a low high. And that's I just thought partly because we have had candidates who do 4 years of 4 years of ongoing of Big Brother, Big Sister, or whatever. And we've had some who have greater leadership, but he did have a lot of, so I would have scored him around a 24. That's 23. I think maybe a 23 because I thought he was a good candidate, had a lot of good things, but I don't know that he would be,
Okay.
I think I would leave room. And then, like Ed said, I'd actually read all of them to see if I'd stay with that.
Hey, really quickly, Rick, are you still on?
Yeah, Rick's there.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here,
Do Rick
Stacy.
and just our other member, Rick and Paul, do you guys want to just give us a number? What, just so
Well,
what'd you give for the student?
well, I gave the student 30. I know I'm easy, and I've been accused of being an easy grader. Uh, uh, and I agree 100% with what Ed Valentine said that you use a pencil with a really large eraser, and it's you have to look at all 10, and then you rank them in a hierarchy from best to lowest, and that's how you come up with your points. So yeah, I think yeah,
How
you have to
about
be
you,
flexible.
Paul? Do you want to tell us what number you gave the student?
Yeah, I was around at 28 also. I gave a lot of weight to his special situation and how many hours he had to spend on that.
Okay.
And as long as I have the floor, I just want to reemphasize one thing. This is a particularly good example of that, that there's some very personal things in here could easily be identified. You know, how many fathers went to prison for, sexual predator things.
Right.
And you have to be very careful when you're talking about the privacy issues that we're given access to things. And you can talk about some of the things you do, but you better greatly disguise them so it can't be identified to any particular person.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. That's very true in this situation. And this is not unusual
Yep.
for us to be exposed to this kind of stuff, for sure.
Yep.
Thank you for saying that, Paul.
And
Appreciate
can I
it.
add something really quickly to what Paul just said? If you come across an application and something in an application, maybe in an essay or maybe in the extraordinary circumstances, in any section of the application, if there's something that concerns you for the student's safety, please just let me know directly. Don't feel like you have to do anything about it or go, take any action on your own, because that might not be the best thing to do. So sometimes we see things in these applications, we hear things that maybe the student wouldn't tell someone else that they know, but they will write it down. And so, that could come up. So if you see something like that, just let me know directly, please. And we'll go from there.
Okay. If you wanted, I gave the student a 27, but I did give him an extra point from the letter of recommendation. The recommender said that he was an exquisite teammate and leads by example. And he didn't really talk too much about his leadership and activity. So I ended up giving him a 28 for that reason. Okay, so that's a little smattering there for you of how that could be, and there's no right answer, right? So let's move really quickly to the personal essay. We're not going to read that, obviously. Let's go right to the rubric on that.
Okay. What is the word count? Is the word count 500? I couldn't remember from
650.
650, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So do you want me to talk about the essay real quick since it's getting a little late?
Yeah, why don't you
And Kay, this essay was 614 words. I counted it.
Yes, I did the same thing. I said, okay, I went into docs, put it in, 614. So very quickly, the essay is similar to the activities in how am I going to score this? So as you read it, and just, full disclosure, I was a English teacher, so I'm all about spelling and grammar and all of that stuff. The prompt for this one, and you'll notice that sometimes a lot of the kids use the same prompt. I think it's 5 or something. But Stacy did give me the prompt. So just for all of us who read it, this was prompt number 1. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. And so the other thing I would like to, or the main thing I want to say is all of these essays are what you would call expository writing. And the definition of expository writing is that it explains or educates the reader. It doesn't have to be entertaining. It doesn't have to be funny. It doesn't have to be quirky or quippy or anything. It's factual. It's usually presented in a linear form. They start, they progress, they fill you in with details. It's always presented logically, so they don't jump all around. It's objective as far as a high school student can be objective, reporting what they're telling us about, and it has to have some clarity of purpose. Okay, so some of them can be super interesting and they can be funny and they can be educational, but we don't score them because we enjoyed reading it. Okay, we want to learn something about the student.
So Kate, where did you put this student? What category did you put them in, the strong, good, or fair?
For the essay, the score,
Yeah,
I gave them a 30.
you gave them a 30.
Yes, because my only reason I would have given them less of a score is if they were over the word count. It was 615 words. I thought so, and I'll tell you why. I thought there was excellent background in the beginning. First of all, they have a tremendous command of the English language. And it's grammatically correct. All the words are spelled properly, which means they used, spelling. Um, and I do think they gave a great intro about how they felt about their dad, and then pretty quickly told us what they learned about their dad and what happened to that dad and how that changed their life. So that you can't take that away from them either. So there are basically some types or styles of expository writing: cause and effect, compare and contrast, description, problem and solution, and a sequence of events. So this, in my opinion, was cause and effect. They loved their father. They learned a lot from their father. Then they had this horrible thing. And so the second paragraph is the cause. I had a fascination with the greater universe, was shaken when my dad was tried, incarcerated, and sent to federal prison. This was horrible. We can only imagine how this affected the whole family. And then the effect is in the next part of it. Academics became my salvation. And then they moved down to language and they move into the Japanese. So their topic or their purpose is kind of how they arrived at something that became passionate about to overcome this horror.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I think we're going to have to leave it there because we're
Okay.
pretty.
And I thought they had an excellent conclusion. So I don't know how everybody else scored it, but I gave them a very strong. I thought it was very well done.
Okay. I guess I maybe addressed that letter of recommendation part right, or I gave a point from that and added it to the activities based on the outstanding recommendation from the recommender. I don't know if Paul or Rick or if either of you want to comment really quickly on the extraordinary circumstances thing. Did anyone have points there? Do you want to give a quick justification for that?
I will. I also thought it was a very strong essay. I gave it 28 to leave myself a couple of points if I read another one. I gave 3 out of 5 points for the extraordinary circumstances of maintaining such a strong academic and extracurricular activities with all that going on in his life, I thought was certainly deserving of scoring 3 points out of the 5.
Yeah, Rick,
I gave
you
the
got anything to
essay.
add to that?
I gave the essay 28 points. I agree with Paul, and I gave him 4 out of 5 points for for the circumstances.
Okay. So that's a little smattering of, how people look at this and think about it. Let's be in it's 1:56. So let's say in the next 4 minutes, do we have any other questions just on anything here?
Somebody asked about, do people generally print it out? Often I print the essay. Sometimes you print, but you take notes on your little thing, but when you go back to look at them, sometimes the essays are good to refresh your memory about the person.
But
Well,
you can print it out using this system.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, I scribble a lot. That sounds good.
You're like me. I do the same thing.
An alternative that I use is to copy it in the essays, for example, into Word, and then I can go through all the essays very quickly, comparing them and making sure I'm consistently scoring them that way.
I do that too, Paul.
Yeah,
I copy and paste.
Yeah. As opposed to printing them out.
I take copious notes on the student eval sheet because then I feel like I have it at a glance for each student and I can do like Ed said, physically put them in an order. So yeah, everybody does what works for them. Okay, any other questions? Just speak. It's hard to see if does anyone else have a question or comment?
Hi, this is Grace, and I'm just wondering how ChatGPT is going to influence our essays.
God save us.
Great question, Grace.
We don't know.
I don't know the answer to that yet.
I think you'll get a feel for it. I think we've seen some ChatGPT essays already. There was one that I read the other day, I happened to read it, although I'm not really looking for content yet, but something drew me in and I read it and I said, this is a ChatGPT essay. And then at the bottom, there were a couple of lines that were very specific to that student. So I think you might see a combination of things happening where there might be a ChatGPT started essay and then they'll add their own comments in or their own lines in. So I think the times are changing and we are going to see that.
Okay, I think Mark, was that you? Did you have a question too?
Real quick. So if I'm getting 10 essays, this example, they primarily will be for I'm comparing students applying to the similar scholarships. Is that correct? So as a comparative level, that should ease things. Is that correct? Or am I wrong?
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay, so if I'm reading 10 essays, and
I
as the
think I
gentleman, as
understand.
people have said, we're evaluating one against the other, which is great. Are basically all of those students applying for the same
I see what you're
scholarship?
saying. Not necessarily, no. So that's one of the caveats of this system of sort of ranking them within the ones that you have, but you have to have some sort of relativity, right? So I guess we just do it within our group, but then as it gets out there into the bigger world, and so they're gonna maybe be competing against somebody who, that Kay and Rick read their essay and you and I read these other ones. And so, yeah, but so that's why, we try to have 3 sets of eyes on each scholarship and try to, weed out biases and stuff that way. Yeah, but good question.
And as Rick said too, some of us are easy, like I kind of tend to be easy, and some people are very hard. And that's if you have 3 people, everybody's reading different essays. It sort of works out, and over the years on a spreadsheet, we all sort of agree at the end, it's amazing.
I have a question.
Yes. Hi, John.
Last year, I think it was said there were 115 students awarded scholarships. I'm wondering if you know how many students applied, and so how many didn't get scholarships?
Last year?
Yes.
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think back to the numbers last year. I have those numbers. So what we generally see, let me tell you about this year's numbers, just initial numbers so far. I'm trying to remember last year's, but it's been a year. But I can find that for you. But this year we've already had 2,000 applications, over 2,000. I want to say close to maybe 2,500 applications
Wow.
started. Not all of those were completed. We are screening a little over 1,000, I believe, applications. And the ones that are complete are moving forward for you guys to read. So there will be many hundreds being read by your team. So yeah,
So it's like maybe 10% get a scholarship.
oh yeah, or less. Yeah, yeah.
And no student would get more than one scholarship, correct?
That's right. Unless they receive the Wyrick Leadership Award as well for being an exemplary leader. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
But yes, remember they'll get the largest one though that they qualify number one for. And that helps us spread the wealth, right? And it gives other students a chance.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Good question.
We get I was just looking if I could put my fingers on it quick. Our committee looks at a report, but I mean, that's a great idea, John. Maybe when it would be nice to kind of send some of that information out to the evaluators too, so you guys have a sense of, you know, the scope of it and how many students out of the pool did receive scholarships. It's a great suggestion. Okay. Anything
Stacey,
else?
what do you think?
Well, somebody did ask about a spreadsheet, and I know I always use a spreadsheet. So if you want to make an Excel spreadsheet, that's really excellent. And Stacy, in the past, did somebody send one to us? Seems like somebody has, but those of
I
us
think
who've done it before.
getting to be quite a few years ago, though. Okay, I don't know that's
Yeah, I don't know.
I think the main the main takeaway is whatever works for you, you'll come up with a system that works for you. And if there's any materials or some ideas that we can or provide for you, then just, you know, reach out and we'll do what we can. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Emily, what are you thinking? Are we calling this?
I think we better call it and let everybody go about their days. This has been wonderful, but
thank you.
I think we better cut it off here and just open it up. If you know, I will be available and Emily Narveson will be as well. I know our committee members are also so helpful. So if you have any issues, just reach out and we're here to help.